Lads, what's going on? Summer to Peace. So back once again with this part 3 of Bernarr MacFadden's Powers of Superb Manhood. We have talked about the ignorance of the negatives of masturbation in part 2. Part 1, we talked about why masturbation is a horrible, horrible sin. So now we're gonna read more on this chapter. We're gonna see what else Bernarr has to say, and the other people that he's quoted, we're gonna see what else they have to say about this horrible practice. So like, comment, subscribe, and let's get right into it. So the name of this chapter here is Physician's Plain Words. This is a doctor now. This is a doctor of the old. Doctors now, we already know, talk to them about masturbation. Masturbation is fine, please. It's okay to release occasionally, or else you'll get prostate cancer. You cannot be a celibate. These are all words and ideals from an older time when there wasn't as much research into the medical system as there is now, which is true to some degree, but remember, celibacy is always a very, very powerful thing. It is the highest of high titles that one could receive in this reality. Let's hear what this physician has to say about masturbation. Let's go. These results of masturbation I have seen in my own practice: involuntary emissions, prostration of strength, debilitation, paralysis of the limbs, hysteria. You see, hysteria is nuts. I don't think we really understand that word. Hysteria, I think that was the name of a show, right? Hysteria, maybe that's a show. Let me know if I'm wrong or correct. Hysteria is when you're not thinking straight. You're in a state of mania. You are in specific situations that bring out that manic quality in you. You are not controlled. You are not of sound mind and judgment. That is a quality that will come about when you are sexually sinning, when you are masturbating. Epilepsy, strange nervous affections, dyspepsia, hypochondria, spinal disease. I'm going to tell you something about spinal disease in a minute. Pain and weakness in the back and limbs. I'm going to talk to you guys about that as well. Costiveness. What is that? I never actually heard of that. Constipation. Yeah, we know that. Not me personally, but I could definitely understand that. If your digestive system is the energy going towards it is not really supplied in full supply as it usually would be with a vessel that is celibate, then clearly you're going to be constipated. The energy to push the things out it's not happening. It's not there. The long and dismal array of gastric, enteric, nervous, and spinal affections, which are so complicated and difficult to manage. There are a couple people, that I work out with in the gym. Right? And, Summer to Peace has fun in the gym, deadlifting a lot, doing barbell squats with a lot of weight, a lot of sets, a good amount of reps, and then afterwards, I'm not winded, we continue to do the rest of the exercises that we have planned for that day. We have individual souls there in their 30s, young 30s, I'm 32. They're telling me they have lower back pain, right? It's hard for them to get up. They need to stretch a lot after exercises, lest they get cramps, horrible cramps. They can't go as long as I am. I take that quote from the Bible to heart and of personality. You are as innocent as doves, but as wise as serpents, right? I'm a little afraid of snakes, but I taken that quote to complete understanding, molecular understanding. I am watching these people. I'm of these people. I watch them. I say hi. I say bye. I say, how is your family? I am genuinely interested. But at the end of the day, I do not associate with any of their ways, any of their habits, any of their behaviors, any of their thought processes, because I know it is of the lower. And I know what pillars have got me to this point in the first place. When these young people tell me about back pain, joint pain, forgetting things, I am automatically understanding of why that is so. They allow themselves to feel the pleasure, the heights of orgasm over and over again, which has led to their debilitated state at such a young age. I smile. I cannot give them strong advice lest they trample over me with their feet. So I will continue to do this and hope that one day that they'll understand the cause of their issues. Granted, I am not perpetuating ignorance. I just understand how people will respond if I tell them that the causes of their physical debilitation is due to their sexual habits. Okay, so next part of this chapter, weaknesses after puberty caused by it. Many of the ills which come upon the young at and after puberty, arise from this habit, persisted in so as to waste their vital energies and enervate, which is to aggravate and to burn out, really, their physical and mental powers. Nature designs that this drain should be reversed until mature age, and even then be made but sparingly. Sturdy manhood in all its vigor loses its energy and bends under the too frequent expenditure of his most important secretion. And no age or condition will protect a man from the danger of unlimited indulgence, though legally and naturally exercised. It doesn't even matter in this modern world how now we have adult film stars, actors, right? They're merging into mainstream media and being introduced to our children, indirectly promoting that lifestyle to the children and to young people, young adults, young men. They show us what their diets are, they show us their personal habits, but at the end, it matters not. Because there is no way to have that rate, that frequency of expenditure and not suffer in some degree or completely. The makeup team, the costume teams of Hollywood and theater are very, very good at their jobs, but they're only good at their jobs, which is the job of concealment, not eradication of the issue. Everything that is done in the dark will come to light. Masturbation cannot be continued perpetually without any sort of broadcasting of the negative symptoms. This is what he's saying here. In the young, however, its influence is much more seriously felt because, remember, they're growing. They're not at the maturity of their evolution. And even those who have indulged so cautiously as not to break down their health or minds cannot know how much their physical energy, mental vigor, and moral purity have been weakened by this indulgence. No cause produces as much insanity. The records of the institutions give an appalling catalog of cases attributed to it by Dr. Woodward. So this is the physician. He has told us, due to the appraisal of his patients, that he deduced were masturbating, right? Young males with their eyes dark, destruction of their moral fiber, their characters were sort of compromised. I don't know. I had this dentist growing up, and he was a really solid guy. I had him for years. It was an appointed dentist by my mom. Of course, we were on our mother's insurance, and she had this really, really good job. So we were seeing this dentist in Wall Street. I was a good kid for the most part growing up. Granted, I masturbated every now and then. I masturbated a lot. He always looked at me with like this really, really, like this eye of importance, this air of importance, as if I was supposed to do good things. And I would mention something going on at school, and he would always give like this very, very wise quip that basically in some nation shows that he understands that event that happened in school and what needs to be done in order to perhaps perpetuate the rewards or the good consequences of that event, or if it's on the other end of the spectrum, the opposite end, which was a bad event and this is what happened. You know, I was basically being not chastised, but scolded by the teacher. This is how to avoid it. And he wouldn't say it as if he was teaching me directly. He would say it in a very indirect way, as if I don't know. It didn't really have anything to do with this, but I guess he could tell that from my physical stature that I was gonna do good things, you know? Anyway, I got a little sidetracked. The worst of all evils. Prostitution and intemperance may do much to demoralize and destroy the character and physique of young men. Do you hear this, lads? Prostitution and intemperance. Remember, these things, you only get to these things when you are sexually sinning and you are now worshiping not the God of our forefathers, as written in the Bible, following the God of willpower, of your own purpose, of your own dreams and goals. You are now only worshiping the God of the orgasm. that leads to prostitution and intemperance. This is what's going on. But unquestionably, at the present day, masturbation causes more physical deterioration, more insanity, more tendency to crime, and than any other one evil of this character. It takes boys when they are maturing, when the slightest influence affects them, we might say all through life, and literally vulgarizes, degrades, and demoralizes them physically, mentally, and sexually. When people are young, when kids are young, that's the best way to try to give them suggestions. Not suggestions as if, oh, maybe you should clean your room today because you're gonna have guests over and you don't want them to judge you incorrectly, or you just want to be a clean and organized person. Not that type of suggestion. We're talking about psychological suggestion, which is you're young, you don't really have any parameters or boundaries of mind. Many things that happen to you or many events that you are in will tend to indirectly influence you to some degree, to a major degree. Of course, committing the act of masturbation at that age and feeling that orgasm for one of the first times, you will identify with that feeling with your very, very soul, your very, very body, and chase it to the end. This is what leads to the perpetuation of crime in order to consistently capture that feeling. This terrible crime to civilization, to humanity, now being committed by the parents and teachers who ignore these subjects with such studied significance cannot be too strongly condemned. We know this, we know this. Are we really civilized? That is a question I was always wondering too. We have clothes, right? We have sophisticated cameras through which we could record high quality videos. We have algorithms that were pre-programmed by some individual that went to school, supplied with a curriculum created by another individual, a civilized individual, we may assume. But with all of that considered, are we truly civilized? The majority of us still, we don't really go to college. We don't really know a lot about literature. We don't know a lot about math, arithmetic, and biology. Even if those scholastic endeavors are not the hallmark of what makes a man, or what makes an individual, sorry. Don't want to get canceled because I'm being misogynistic by calling men and women men. Because we don't have self-cleaning routines, self-care routines in terms of maintenance of sexual health. Because we lack these things, does it mean that we are not civilized? I'm just reading the name of this part of the chapter, and it's already bringing forth a lot of ideas to mind. No nation has the slightest claim to true civilization when such crimes are daily and hourly perpetrated without even the slightest effort being made to stop the terrible slaughter of innocents that results from this most base, this most criminal neglect. The powers that be, guys, the mayors of your cities, the presidents of your nations, the prime ministers of your countries, panels of government officials, the EU, they all know, we're not blaming them directly, but I'm sure they have some part in this. They all know about the strengths of masturbation, the strengths of sexual continence, the powers of semen retention to some degree. The problem is that they are trying to go all the way around the mountain in order to get to the mountaintop, right? To follow some preset, pre-made path to get to the mountaintop instead of just going straight up the mountain directly. We are not addressing the issue at its source. Masturbation leads to a whole plethora of issues in general, mental, physical, spiritual, you name it. They've spoken about this in this book. The problem is that I don't know, maybe it is part of some agenda to conceal this information from individuals lest they understand the true nature of this world. For sure, these guys are to blame. What would you think of a man who would unfeelingly stand by a blind child and see it walk to the brink of a precipice and fall into the depths below? Where is the difference between this inhuman creature and a parent or guardian who will stand by and watch and see his child innocently, blindly falling into the abyss of masturbation, which, though it may not mean death, in every case means that the victim will be maimed mentally, morally, and physically for life? It's true. There is no difference from allowing a blind person walking off a cliff than a parent being ignorant in the ways of sexual sin's influence on the lives of the young. And the permittance of this sin to continue. The child is not going to die instantly if they are permitted to masturbate, but it is a slow, painful suffering for their entire life here in this physical reality. Of course, they're not advancing either. They're not understanding the true nature of this place or the true nature of themselves, their purpose, what they're meant to lend to this place. So it is the same as death to some degree. Of course, he often recovers and becomes a good and useful citizen, but he would have been better and stronger and nobler if not tainted and wrecked by such vile influences. Time is nothing, like I said. If we get to where we're meant to get to, or if we get to a point where we're helping individuals and we have powerful perception and we are strong in mind, body, and willpower, it doesn't matter if we get there in 3 lifetimes. We got there. And people are being helped, and that's what matters. Life is a marathon, guys. It is not a race. And existence is a marathon as well. Time is just meant to give us a sort of frame in which we're supposed to work our actions and become as noble and as moral as possible before we, pass on into the next place. That's that for this part. That's the end of part 3. We learned so much. Not only we learned about a physician's analysis of his patients, therefore deducing masturbatory habits in those individuals. But we also learned about how the same way that a blind person is permitted to walk forward off a cliff into their deaths, by the depths of whatever they're jumping into, is the same as if when a parent would allow and permit a child to continue masturbating. Closing statement for this part 3. Please understand the horrible habits that are entering your life. You must have, it is very hard as a young person when you're very impressionable and you have no sort of parameter of judging or gauging what is good, what is bad. There needs to be more leaders and more mentors that understand the dangers of sexual sin in all forms and the dangers of masturbation. There needs to be a broadcast of these dangers and a mass exodus from this culture of complete sexual lavishness and licentiousness to a place and a culture and an area of ascension, of great objective analysis. That's my words for today. So if you like that stuff, like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video with some peers. I always say, don't let this place get you down. Masturbation is a horrible, horrible sin. Bernarr MacFadden is very, very dedicated, even in this day and age of 2024, decades after he wrote the book and broadcasted his diets. He is very, very dedicated into making sure no one falls down that abyss of masturbation where very, very few get out. And stay radiant. I shall see you guys in the next video. Woo!